Okay, our participant numbers have tipped over the 100 mark and it's gone 10 a.m. So I'm going to take that as our signal to begin. Good morning to you all. A very warm welcome to this Connect with UKRIO session. My name is Jake Eliot, and I'm the new Director of Policy and External Affairs at UKRIO. I'm really pleased to welcome you to our session today and join you as chair for the session. It is brilliant to see so many of you here and so many of you interested in connecting with UKRIO. We're inviting our community to help shape our thinking as we develop our new organisational strategy. As some of you will know, this is the second session of our Connect with UKRIO series. We launched this model of engagement and these opportunities last year to make sure we're offering more opportunities to engage with our work. Towards the end of last year, we came together for the first Connect with UKRIO session to look at our work programme for the year ahead. And later on this year in summer, we'll come together again and host another session to look at our progress against the objectives we set out into that work plan and begin planning ahead for next year. Today, though, our focus is a little bit different. We're here to kickstart our consultation on a new 5-year strategy for UKRIO. And so to start that conversation today, what we're going to do is share with you our perspectives on initially what we see as the opportunities and challenges currently facing the research community. We want to explore how UKRIO can continue to strengthen its role in supporting you to uphold the higher standards of research integrity. So what that is going to look like is this, if we can share the agenda for today. I'm going to start with just a few housekeeping notices. I'll then hand over to our chair, Professor Dame Linda Partridge. Linda will give her reflections on the context for this strategy consultation, have a brief look at UKRIO's journey so far and the values and the mandate that we're going to take forward into our new strategy. We'll then hear from our UKRIO's Chief Executive, Steph Neave, who will take us through UKRIO's theory of change, which is how we see change happening in the research landscape and how UKRIO's current and future work programme is designed to support and enable that and maximise impact. Following that, I'll be back on camera and on mic to take you through some high-level key drivers that we're considering as we set out on this new strategy journey. And then we'll finish with a short Q&A, and we're aiming to close the session at 11:15. So before we get underway to the main order of business, just a few housekeeping announcements. Today's session is being recorded, and we'll share that through UKRIO's public channels. And as this is a webinar, all attendees' identities won't be visible and won't be disclosed. So your attendee cameras and microphones will remain off for the duration of the webinar. We do want your interaction and your involvement, though. And if you're not familiar with Zoom as a platform, on the toolbar below the screen, you'll see a number of useful features. So a live transcript is available. You can turn the captions on or off using that toolbar. People are already using the chat to introduce themselves, which is great. So please do use that chat to say hello, share comments. I have my UKRIO team with me on the call today, and they'll be monitoring that for any kind of accessibility or technical issues that we can help with from our end, and we'll also share links and further information through the chat window. For questions on today's session, please use the specific Q&A function. You can submit questions at any point throughout this morning, including during the dedicated Q&A segment at the end of the call. In order just to make the most of our time today, we're really appreciative of the time people have put into this and put aside for it, and we want to make sure we cover the maximum possible amount of business before we let you go. So please do keep focused to the topic of UKRIO's new strategy, and we'll trust all our stakeholders and our audience to remain professional, respectful, and constructive. So let's get into it. It's my pleasure to introduce now our chair, Professor Dame Linda Partridge, who some of you may have met and know already, or have met at our symposium last year. For those of you who haven't, Professor Dame Linda is a distinguished geneticist. She's internationally recognized for her work on the biology of aging and the genetic mechanisms underlying age-related diseases, and is currently Weldon Professor of Biometry at the Institute for Healthy Aging at UCL. As our chair, Linda succeeds Professor Surian Boyd, whose leadership over the previous 6 years have helped steer UKRIO through a really significant period of growth, change, and evolution, strengthening our profile as a trusted and high impact voice in research integrity. Over to you, Linda.
Thank you very much, Jake. So good morning, everyone. And as Jake's just said, it's great to see so many of you here for this important event as we begin the conversation about UKRIO's future direction. And your presence, of course, speaks to the commitment across our community to strengthen research integrity in all its aspects. And it's that commitment that's driven my own involvement with UKRIO. I happily agreed to take on the role of chair, despite not being short of things to do, because I believe deeply that research integrity is central to the success of the whole research enterprise. It's not a peripheral concern, but rather the foundation on which all credible, impactful research rests. And in the rapidly changing world that we all inhabit, that foundation's never mattered more, because we're living through a period of extraordinary change. Technological innovation is accelerating at a pace few could have imagined even a decade ago. And the research effort is increasing globally, as is its complexity, with interconnected and interdependent work often taking place in multiple institutions and in different parts of the world. And different cultures do not always adhere to the same standards of research integrity. And society, of course, is facing new challenges: climate change, new threats to public health, the struggles with AI government and with social inequality. These are all large, complex, and urgent issues, and they're challenges that demand research that we can all trust. So research integrity is a positive attribute, not simply a matter of avoiding misconduct. It's about enabling research to rise to the moment. It's about ensuring that the knowledge we generate is robust, reliable, and worthy of the public's confidence. It's about creating environments where researchers are supported to do their best work. For the past 20 years, UKRIO has been a vital source of independent expert advice and support for the research community on matters of research integrity. And in recent years, the organisation has also been in a period of rapid evolution, responding to the changing research landscape and increasing demand for its guidance. In that context, one of the reasons I chose to join UKRIO as chair of its board of trustees, I hoped that I could help steer the organisation through the next phase, together with the other board members, providing the leadership and vision needed to deepen and expand its impact. And UKRIO plays a unique and essential role in helping the research community uphold the principles that underpin trustworthy and responsible research, whatever the context. And if we get this right, we strengthen not only individual projects or institutions, but the entire research ecosystem. So the stakes are high, but so also is the opportunity. With the right support, the right structures, and the right culture, research can meet the challenges of our time with integrity and confidence. And that's the vision that drives me, and alongside all of you, UKRIO will play a key role in driving integrity throughout the research ecosystem. So today marks the beginning of an important conversation, the development of UKRIO's next 5-year strategy. But before we look ahead to that, which we'll do in a moment, I do think it's useful to reflect on how far we've come and what that journey tells us about the organisation that we want to be in the future. So this year, UKRIO turns 20. Initially, we were funded in a project housed within Universities UK, becoming a registered charity for the first time in 2012, with just 1 employee and 21 subscribing organisations. So it was a modest start. but one built on conviction that research integrity matters and that the sector needs independent expert support to uphold and advance it. 20 years on, that conviction has only strengthened. Our subscriber community now includes more than 160 organisations. Our team has grown to 10 dedicated staff, supported by an advisory council and with a vibrant stakeholder community. And the support we provide has expanded in both scale and ambition. So much of the transformation took place during the 2022 to 25 strategy under the expert and inspirational guidance of my predecessor, Sir Ian Boyd. He set out a bold direction for the organisation, one that asked UKRIO to be more proactive, more strategic, and more visible in championing research integrity across the entire research ecosystem. And an absolutely pivotal step along that journey was the appointment of Stephanie Neave as UKRIO's CEO. Her mandate was clear: to deepen, improve, and expand the support that we provide. And over the past few years, the board's worked closely with staff to reshape UKRIO, sharpen our purpose, and create the capacity and focus to drive forward our mission. So very much working as a team, we've introduced an annual work programme that sets out clear priorities, informed directly by the needs and insights of our stakeholders. We've expanded our training and development offers for subscribers and the wider research community. We've taken a more active role in thought leadership and convening, ensuring that UKRIO is a trusted voice in national conversations. That's been a really important development. We've fostered collaborations and partnerships to drive innovation, efficiency, and greater sector-wide impact. We've strengthened our reach and engagement, recognising that while many are committed to research integrity, we must continue to make the case for its importance across all sectors of the research ecosystem. And above all, we've focused relentlessly on delivering value for money and maximising our impact on the research integrity agenda. And there have been some further achievements as well. Particular highlights over this last strategy period include the publication of our review into research misconduct, which sets out a series of proposals that are now being taken forward across the research community. We saw the launch of our online training courses, already adopted by more than 110 organisations since their release last year, demonstrating the appetite for accessible, high-quality support. We launched our authorship toolkit, funded by UKRI and shaped through extensive stakeholder workshops, ensuring that the final outputs were genuinely co-created and fit for purpose. And we've had a whole host of collaborations and partnerships, including with the Wellcome Trust, the Sanger Institute, the UK REN, and with many of our subscriber organisations, partnerships that strengthen our collective ability to drive integrity across the sector. And it's evident to us that this work is both needed and valued. When we entered the 22 to 25 strategy period, our subscriber community stood at 105 organisations. Today, it's grown to more than 160. Engagement with our resources and services has increased significantly as well, reflecting both the demand for support and the value that the community places on UKRIO's role. And I hope that many of you have felt this shift, seen it in our approach, and experienced it in the support that we provide to the research community. So what's coming next? We can now move forward from this, I think, solid set of achievements to the next phase of our work. So we're still early in 2026, and this is the moment to take stock and look ahead. We want to ensure that UKRIO continues to provide relevant, timely support and leadership, helping to cultivate healthy research cultures and prevent research misconduct in all its forms. And our ambition is clear: to maximise UKRIO's impact over the next 5 years by focusing on the most pressing challenges and the greatest opportunities. And to do that, we need your insight, your experience, and your ideas. We're really looking for input here as we make the plans for the next period. And later in this session, we'll explain how you can contribute to the strategy development process and continue the dialogue with us. And your voices really will be essential in shaping the next chapter of UKRIO's work. So as we look to the future, we're open to doing things differently and to doing different things, but we're not starting from a blank sheet of paper. Our new strategy will build on the momentum, the realignment, and the renewed sense of purpose that's taken shape over the past 2 years. And I, together with the UKRIO board, have given Steph and her team a clear and strategic mandate to look not only at how we support the research community when issues arise, but to identify and address the underlying drivers that allow these issues to emerge in the first place. And at the heart of that mandate is a commitment to place stakeholder priorities at the centre of our work, so that our strategy is shaped by the realities that you face and the change that you want to see. This direction of travel reflects what the board and I believe is the strongest, mission most aligned path for UKRIO. Steph will shortly speak in more detail about our theory of change, that is how we plan to make a difference. But in brief, it's anchored in these 3 core commitments. So promoting good research practice at systemic, organisational and individual levels. Working to achieve change at these different levels is the most effective route to impact that we have. UKRIO has a small and adaptive staffing model, and under Steph's leadership, we've carved out capacity and remits in our job roles and work programmes to pursue and plan for impact at these 3 different levels. Recognising the diversity and breadth of the research ecosystem is also essential, because research integrity is not confined to any one setting, and neither is UKRIO's mission. We're committed to supporting integrity in every context in which research is conducted, whether in higher education, the public, private, or the third sectors. And these parts of the research ecosystem are increasingly intersecting with each other and working more closely together to drive growth. And our expanding network reflects this diversity and convergence, bringing together organisations and individuals united by a shared commitment to strengthening research integrity. And as we develop and deliver the new strategy, it's essential that we define and communicate a clear, timely and high-value offer that meets the needs of this broad, interconnected and evolving community. And finally, being powered and guided by the research community. Our role is first and foremost to listen. Everything we do must be shaped by the needs, priorities and lived realities of the research community. That's why our focus is on delivering accessible expertise and practical support through our advice service and our growing suite of projects, tools and frameworks. But what practical and timely help should look like in the years ahead is not something that we'll decide in isolation. It needs to be informed by you. Your insight will guide our direction, ensuring that UKRIO's work is grounded in the challenges you face and the support that you need to strengthen research integrity in every context. And with these 3 pillars as our foundation, the board, the Advisory Council, and I've been working closely with the team in the UKRIO office to develop our theory of change. It's still being refined, but the direction's taking shape. And I'm really delighted now to hand over to Steph Neave, UKRIO's Chief Executive Officer, who'll give you a brief overview of this work.
Thank you, Linda, and good morning, everyone. I am really delighted you joined us here today. As Linda has already set out, UKRIO is at a really important moment. We're taking stock, we're reflecting on where we are, and we're working to shape a strategy that will maximize our impact over the next 5 years. And to help us frame our thinking and focus over the past 6 months, the board and advisory council have been working closely with the team and I to develop our theory of change. Now, for those who aren't familiar with theories of change, very simply, these are frameworks that help to set out what our ultimate goals are and the pathways we believe will lead us there. In other words, it's an articulation of not only what we aim to achieve, but how we believe our activities contribute to those outcomes. But more than an externally facing visual or narrative, it's a process of really forcing us to reflect on why we do what we do and whether that's the most effective way to advance our mission. And as we worked through that process, one thing became very clear. If we are to achieve our mission, and that is to promote good research practice and prevent research misconduct, we need to be operating at those three different levels that Linda has already mentioned, working to support the people navigating integrity issues in real time, working with organizations across the research community, and working to inform and influence at the systems level. This theory of change reflects our commitment to more than simply supporting when issues arise. We're also committed to tackling the underlying drivers of those problems, the pressures, incentives, cultures, and structures that shape behavior across the system. So, central to our work has always been and will continue to be supporting practitioners and individuals on the ground. We remain dedicated to helping everyone involved in the planning, execution, and communication of research, whether their contribution is direct or indirect. And that includes researchers and those in research enabling roles, such as professional support staff working in research governance or management. But it also goes beyond that to research participants, for example, and members of the public. Our goal is to ensure individuals have the knowledge, the tools, and the support to promote and adopt good research practice, as well as the ability to avoid, prevent, and address potential breaches of research integrity. And we believe we do that, or we can achieve that in a variety of ways by providing independent and confidential advice and guidance, by offering training, events, and educational resources, and by providing opportunities for individuals to network, collaborate, and share good practice. Beyond individuals, we also believe we have a role to play in supporting at the organizational or community level to help minimize duplication of effort and to promote consistency and rigor. By acting as a convener to bringing the community together, by working to identify and facilitate the sharing of good practice, and by providing organizations with practical guidance, education, and training. Our goal here is to support actors across the research ecosystem to both recognize and also to fully utilize their role in enabling and advancing research integrity, whether they be research employers, research funders, publishers, or other organizations that shape the research environment. Of course, we recognize that many of the challenges in upholding and advancing research integrity go beyond individuals or organizations. And that's where our work at the systems level comes in, because we know there is a need to advocate for why and how our system can enable and promote a culture of integrity. To do this, we are committed to acting as a recognized and trusted voice on research integrity matters, providing thought leadership where it's needed, advising on how policy may translate into practice, and where necessary, advocating for collective action. We believe that only by working across all three of these levels can we really safeguard and continue to advance research integrity. But as Linda has already said, we're under no illusions that research integrity is something any single organization can deliver alone. It requires collective effort, collective insight, and collective commitment. And that is why your input and your support are absolutely essential to our work. So thank you again for your engagement today and beyond. We really couldn't do this without you. Ultimately, everything we do is shaped and powered by the research community itself. And that's why we're launching this consultation on our strategy. We know that there are both headwinds and tailwinds ahead for all of us working to advance research integrity. And we want to understand from your perspective how UKRIO can most meaningfully support you and the research community navigate those challenges and opportunities on the horizon. With that in mind, I'm going to hand back to Jake, who will give you a high-level overview of the work we've been doing to map out the various macro environmental forces within the landscape before outlining how you can help shape our strategy and ensure we are most meaningfully focusing our efforts in the years ahead. Jake, over to you.
Great. Thank you, Steph. And hello again, folks. So as Steph said, in this strategy consultation, we really want to hear from you about those key factors that are enabling and hindering good research practice. So in the next bit of today's webinar, I'm going to spend most of my time highlighting some key external factors that we're thinking about as we start working up our new strategy. And then I'll finish up talking more specifically about how you can actually respond to our consultation and get involved in this conversation. So what I'm sharing are very high level trends rather than neatly packaged proposals and work programs. Now, many people on this call will have been involved in strategic planning exercises where you've used a PESTLE type analysis. And that's what I'm going to do today, to look at the kind of key political, economic, social, technological, legal, and environmental forces that are shaping our community. For us, there is value in sharing this as kind of early thinking and starting to get your more detailed feedback through the strategy consultation to begin to develop that shared understanding of what external drivers we need to respond to and try and shape, and which ones might not be in our gift to control, but we just have to learn to work with. It can help us define strategic priorities and opportunities, and also understand how risks might be beginning to accumulate in ways we'd miss if we leapt straight into considering delivery priorities right away. So I do want to touch on all the headings of the PESTLE analysis, but in case that causes kind of worry and concern about how much of your morning I'm going to take up, I've limited myself to a maximum of 3 bullets under each to hopefully be a useful prompt to some of your thinking and responses to our strategy conversation. So we'll begin with the political and economic factors. Starting with the political, the UK government's growth mission is driving ambition across all public policy at the moment. And that is, of course, bringing in a more directive and interventionist approach to put research investment into government ambitions, with political activity being generated around R&D policy, but also the role of research in the government's industrial strategy and wider ambitions and responsibilities for placemaking. But this is not just about political power over investment. We're also in a dynamic phase of changes to funding and structural reform, with UKRI moving to its new model to focus on 3 buckets aligned to its mission of advancing knowledge, improving lives, and driving growth. And that's been made clear that that's about making more active choices about that investment rather than spreading the investment thinly right across the portfolio, as Ian Chapman of UKRI describes it as doing fewer things better, and the Science Minister Liz Kendall as prioritising with intent. Looking ahead to REF 2029, we've got further potential systemic change to the incentives and the evaluation of research integrity and culture, and questions over the ability of that framework to encourage and frame healthy research cultures, as well as how to assess, measure, and communicate that. And looking beyond our sector and indeed beyond the borders of the UK, we can identify a more pressurized and sometimes contested international context for research integrity, whether that's from the USA, where executive orders from the president have intervened in science funding and science appointments, or looking to our European partners, where we see that more defensive focus on national security, economic resilience, and competitiveness. So moving on to some of those economic trends. If you're in the UK, we simply can't escape the challenging macroeconomic context of a slow growth, no growth economy, and the associated weak labour market, higher costs of business, and rising cost of living for employees and for citizens. In the UK at the moment, unemployment ticking just over 5% and expected to rise to 5.5%, and young adult unemployment running much higher than that. One of the cross-cutting themes of politics and economic trends at the moment seems to be upheaval and uncertainty. So we've got the ongoing instability from US trade tariffs and, of course, wider geopolitical confrontations and tensions. And looking at the economics of higher education, we've got universities in the UK facing deficits and prompting serious concerns about sustainability of financial models, despite extensive cutbacks. 45% of universities in the most recent analysis by the Office of Students are facing a deficit in this financial year, as well as that impact of uncertainty and practical reductions in capacity of organizations that exacerbates the kind of workforce insecurity and well-being impacts on researchers that might affect research practice and culture. Meanwhile, from a third sector point of view, the sustained rising costs of charities business and operations have seen downsizing from major household name charities and what funders have described as unprecedented competition in trust and foundations funding, causing a further uncertainty and challenge there. We'll move on to the social and technological factors. More positively, we see a stable and generally high levels of public trust in research compared to other sectors. So Edelman, the big global PR firm's 2025 Trust Barometer, which looked at across 28 countries, found that scientists and teachers are more trusted than people's local neighbours or company CEOs. And in the Public Attitude to Science survey, it's previously been identified that actually place of work and originating organization does affect levels of trust, with scientists working in the university sector most highly trusted by the public. Beyond trust, we see dynamic changes in the technological context pushing social change, so particular concerns about paper mills and the production of fake or fabricated studies, which might militate against those high levels of trust, and indeed perceptions of research integrity, not just for the outputs, but for peer review processes and the production of research as well. And while support for research in the UK is widespread, evidence from CASE and others suggests that public support is quite shallow. So CASE's own public attitudes to R&D polling last year found that while 88% of UK adults agree it's very important for government to invest in R&D, only 29% felt a personal connection with it. Perhaps the more obvious trends on the technological front is around AI. And from our point of view, the dual focus of integrating AI to improve research practice with that vital critical assessment of its risks to ethics, rigors, kind of cumulative social and environmental impacts of AI. In context, we also see beyond AI that broader drive for digital transformation across organizations and institutions, which may affect how organizations are able to deliver not just research, but teaching and engagement, as well as the infrastructure and support functions for healthy research cultures. If we can move on to the final PESTLE slide of separate trends, turning now to the legal and the environmental. In terms of the legal governance context, we have the refreshed Concordat to support research integrity, which gives us a focus and a clear shared agenda for UKRIO and for our partners for how we can collaborate to improve research integrity. And sector-wide, we have the implementation coming of the Employment Rights Act that was passed by Parliament towards the end of last year, which will bring in further change into the dynamic context for changing employment patterns and structures in the sector. That'll take place over several years, which may add some security in some places, but will also add further complexity and change to the structural changes already underway for education institutions and a number of research bodies. Again, thinking about the place of the UK in an international context, there are heightened concerns over heightened exports controls on sharing knowledge, data, and technology over borders, and that increasing the uncertainty, complexity of governance, and introducing potential delay as well for researchers and research projects. And we are also interested in the emergent legal and accountability challenges from dual-use research, and how governance frameworks can balance realizing the benefits of that research while managing security concerns and research ethics. Last but not least, turning our focus to environmental drivers and trends that are shaping our environment, it's worth noting that building a green future is one of the key core themes of UKRI's current strategy up to 2027 to accelerate the UK's transition to a green economy by 2050. And that's not just embedded in UKRI strategy, that's a key strand running through the government's industrial strategy too. Alongside that, and already hinted at under some of the social trends, there's growing awareness and concerns about energy and resource consumptions for research, accelerated by the focus on the rapid global expansion for data centers for AI, but cloud storage too, and the associated energy costs, water consumptions, and land use that involves, raising the question of research integrity and ethics as part of that conversation. Finally, the place of research integrity within that wide variety of different organizations' approaches to action on environmental sustainability, raising questions about kind of leadership and ownership of that. So in the science sector, we see the Laboratory Efficiency Assessment Framework and LEAF, and alongside that, numerous other institutional or organizational wide sustainability and net zero strategies that aim to cover culture and leadership, as well as estates, buildings, and back office functions. This is a very busy slide, but I wanted to take a step back, having introduced you to those couple of high level drivers that we're particularly focused on at the moment, to look at the overall PESTLE in context, to provide a refresher, and to underline that in our strategy consultation, we're really keen to hear from you about what's missing in that analysis, what you think this means for your organization and your sector, and therefore what you think it means through your responses to our strategy survey about priorities for research integrity. As well as the drivers and the themes that loom large for you, it might be also helpful to think through across these different strands, where are there kind of critical uncertainties beginning to accumulate, where we might need more shared deliberation and more conversation about what we think is happening and where it might go? Where is there real interdependence, where themes inevitably connect? And also, where is there a confluence of risk, where an impact of risk and uncertainty is magnified because the way some of these risks come together in ways that aren't neatly separated by the headings of the PESTLE framework. We are rapidly approaching a couple of minutes where we can respond to any queries and questions you have. And just before I do turn to that, I wanted to introduce to you how you can actually respond and get involved in the next steps of this conversation. So we are launching our strategy consultation survey today. You see a QR code link on the slide in front of you. We'll also be dropping the link into the chat to this conversation. And we will also email around to all attendees. So if you're scrabbling for your mobile phone now and worried about losing access to the chat, please don't. We'll email you around a link to the online survey. That survey is structured in a couple of different sections to try and help you organize your thinking and make it easy to respond to our strategy questions. So that survey asks you for strategic insights. What are the needs? What's the evidence base that you see? We're interested in understanding your views on change at the different levels we talked through in our theory of change. So sector and systems level, looking at collaboration and thought leadership, as well as the organizational and individual level, looking at barriers you face and support that you would find useful and helpful. And think about the impact over the next 5 years, which is the duration of our strategy. So that online survey is launching today and will be open for responses until the 31st of March. If you're a loyal survey respondent of UKRIO and you've previously filled out our stakeholder survey last year, just say this is different. We'll also be interested in your views on our more traditional stakeholder survey a bit later on. But we're focusing on the strategy survey up till the end of March. We estimate it'll take between about 20 and 30 minutes to respond to. Mileage will vary according to the amount you want to want to process and send to us, but that's a general guideline. It can be completed anonymously. It can be completed individually or on behalf of an organisation. Okay, we will move now to the final part of our session today, which is a few minutes for questions and discussion. So we've got two questions in the chat. Firstly, so this is your signal as well to drop anything else into the Q&A session if you'd like a response. We can manage a written response for any questions we don't have a chance to cover today. The first question is how can we ensure that researchers in precarious employment with life-threatening or long-term health conditions such as cancer are safe and able to flourish within the research environment? So there's a really important question there, I think, about researchers in different contexts and different barriers research communities are facing. So it'll be interesting to take that conversation forward through the strategy exercise and say if there are particular networks represented today that would like a more bespoke conversation about responding to the strategy and hearing some of our thinking. We're really open to that. So do get in touch. There's some contact details at the end of these slide deck if you'd like to continue that conversation to make sure we're hearing from the full diversity of the research sector. The next question is asking how will UKRIO ensure the flexibility to react, reflect and offer solutions to new and emerging research integrity problems and not be constrained by a strategy that's constructed at a point in time when these new problems cannot be imagined. So yeah, a really important point about agility. You heard at the beginning of the call about the structure and mandates that STEP with the board have put in place to give us the best possible capacity and awareness to react and change. And hopefully you've had a chance to see some of our work program for this year and how we've mixed responding to long-term challenges and issues with in-year priorities that shift. That is very much the ambition for the strategy to remain agile. So we're looking at a living and working strategy, not a very heavy bureaucratic delivery plan that's going to absorb all staff capacity for the full 5 years. We are really interested in hearing more about what colleagues think of as those emergent, new and difficult to plan for, and if by the nature we don't know about those yet, to work together to identify where, which sectors, which areas do we think these might be emerging from, so we can use our networks and our impressively diverse subscriber base to understand and respond as we go. And there is a final question in the chat, which is I won't read out in total because there's some really useful analysis, and I would encourage that attendee to make sure they include that in their response. But it's a question specifically about local governments in the UK, not traditionally viewed as research institutions, but do generate, use, and oversee complex research. Does UKRIO view its mission as supporting local authorities to understand what research integrity looks like in this context? So I'd say hopefully you got a sense from our theory of change and our overall approach that we're bringing into this strategy that we see that full diversity of the research community as an integral part of the value we can deliver and the offer of support we can make. So we're really interested to hear from local authorities about specific challenges you face in your context and the kind of support, help and resources that UKRIO can produce to make sure they are relevant and helpful to your context. We have a couple more questions coming in the chat, which I'm afraid I'm going to need to gloss over at this point in order to make sure we finish on time. We will absorb, and where there are contact points there, be able to get back on those individual questions. But I'm very keen for people to be able to finish this call promptly. So just before we close, a couple of ways to highlight about how to continue this conversation. So on our website, linked to on the slide, you can find all our services, guidance and resources. We'll also obviously include links to the strategy survey, strategy survey on the website. If you're not signed up to our newsletter, please do. You can sign up on the website and it will keep you updated with all of our work and also all of our future events. And as always, if you're looking for advice or support on a specific research integrity issue, or you want to talk to us more widely about collaborating in our work and getting involved, please do get in touch. You'll see the central email on the slide there, and me and the team will make sure your query gets to the right place. Okay, so that brings us to 10:45 and to the end of today's session. So a brief thank you from me for attending today and for your engagement and your questions. We hugely appreciate the time you take to join us in starting this conversation. We're eager to hear your views and your insight coming through the strategy consultation, and we look forward to continuing the conversation from here on in. Thank you. Hope you have a great morning.